Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships and a first look at the Borodino. This was provided to me by Wargaming free of charge, which I think I don't always remember to say when I'm looking at these new ships, but yeah, basically as a CC you get given these things to look at. And what this is another squashy battle cruiser type ship, because of course we had the Constellation added not long ago as well. To be honest though, to me this is, if I was going to compare it to anything, this is more like perhaps a tier 8 Dunkirk in a lot of ways, but not every way that's comparable. The ship's firepower layout is obviously one very kind of obvious area of comparison. It's got only 2 forward turrets and only 3 guns per turret. It's also got not the best reload at 31 seconds. What it does have, however, is a battle cruiser dispersion rather than standard battleship dispersion. And so unlike the Soviet BBs and unlike other BBs, it is a bit more accurate. Well, Soviet BBs might be more accurate at closer range, but this thing has good accuracy over all ranges. So you've only got the 6 guns, but they are 16-inch guns and they feel really nice to use. With that accuracy and the hitting power and the overmatch potential of 16-inch guns against a lot of the targets you'll be seeing at tier 8, these are nice. These are really nice guns to have on a battleship. It comes with some downsides though. The other point of comparison this has to the Dunkirk is that it is quite squashy. It has only got a, is it 25 or 26 mil bow? I can't remember. But I'll go over the armour after this replay anyway. We can look at that in a little more detail. But it can get overmatched itself through the bow and the stern. So doing this kind of bow tanking manoeuvre, it's not necessarily a great idea, but one of the significant downsides of this ship is that although it's relatively fast, it manoeuvres very poorly. It has an extremely wide turning circle and the rudder shift isn't anything particularly great either. So it's an awkward ship to use. The Dunkirk is itself also fast but handles a lot better because it's a much smaller ship. This thing is really quite long. Probably the last main thing to mention is the radar. It is a 12 kilometer 30 second radar, which in terms of duration that's almost American. I think some of the American radars last longer than that, but it certainly beats out some of the other Soviet radars in terms of duration. You only get 3 charges if you're using Superintendent, but it's certainly a very useful range of radar, and it's a long enough duration that not only do you get to fire once yourself, but your allies will have about 10 seconds. Is it 10? Is it 20 seconds of your own? And then I can't even remember what the durations are. It might be longer than 10 seconds, but your allies will get a chance to also shoot at things that are radared. Really the only challenge with the radar is not just blowing them all in quick succession and actually using them sparingly as needed. Which in this case has lit up the Belfast, but the Akatsuki is the more high profile target, or the higher priority target, so that's what I'm going for, even though the temptation to blap a Belfast is quite strong. Now this particular match I'm showing you, it's a top tier game, and that's kind of for a reason. The bottom tier, mid-tier games I had were generally not that great. I was forced to take a much more passive role just because of how squashy this thing is. In terms of a tier 8 battleship to compare it to, I mean, I know I've been talking about the Dunkirk at tier 6, and now obviously there's the Flandre at tier 7, but there is of course the Champagne at tier 8, which has that kind of inverse Russian accuracy profile where it's got very good long range accuracy, but it's not necessarily that good close up, and also an armor profile to really match that, and also not a lot of guns. So yeah, it's almost French, this thing, apart from that radar, and obviously just the look of the thing is not very French either, but Yeah, in terms of how squashy it is and having limited number of guns, yeah, it's weirdly Gallic. Again, bow tanking, this is absolutely not optimal, but showing any kind of broadside would have been suicidal, so I'm kind of forced to do this. There is a carrier in play as well, so we're going to see them at some point, I think reasonably soon, because they're going to go, oh, that's a reversing battleship that's kind of on the edge of some other ships, so therefore not too big of a blob of AA to worry about. And yeah, the AA on this really isn't anything special. The range is okay, but yeah, you'll get to see the range isn't the actual AA power isn't anything particularly good. So again, like the French battleships for the most part. I've had some good meaty hits on some of these enemies so far though, especially the ones showing broadsides. That battlecruiser accuracy is so nice, it really is. I cannot overstate how nice it is to use these guns, but at the same time the sheer squashiness of the platform that they are attached to does pose a significant challenge. So although while I kind of like this ship overall, it's really hard to recommend as a kind of jump in and have an easy time, or you know, not have to think about things too much. You really do have to be quite careful. And if you're not, well, you know, just that was just torpedo damage. I mean, Saipan torps are nasty, but imagine taking that every time you show even like any vague kind of broadside, and you'll have some idea of what this thing has to face. Oh, also only 4 heals again with Superintendent, so you've got that limitation as well. At least you have a regular damage control party. You don't have to also ration your DCPs as you would in the regular Soviet battleships. I'm not quite sure why they chose to do it that way. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. I don't particularly enjoy that limited use DCP system, but yeah, for some reason they decided just to give it a regular one. We are winning on this flank, and we've kind of won on the other flank. I mean, this was the usual standard game awkwardness all round, really. And I think I would have been in considerably more trouble if this Massachusetts hadn't been also considerably pulling their weight. And I think they're actually going to end up on a pretty good score in this one, if I remember correctly. But I'll have a pretty good score myself. I mean, I'm almost 100k already. And I think I'm probably have beaten this game damage wise, but this was just one of the better games overall. Or maybe I haven't so far, I don't know. I might have done during the testing and then just didn't keep the replay. Again, another very nice solid hit, and with these 16-inch guns I can just easily punch through that New Mexico's bow, so yeah, not too much of a problem really. The only big threats at this point are maybe taking Akatsuki torps, or if the Saipan comes after me. Although the Saipan might be running down on planes a little bit at this stage. So not quite so good that time, but a bit more damage is nice. Massachusetts might be taking some torpedoes there. I almost wondered if there was going to be a ramming here, but no. As it happens there will not be. So as this Algerie is broadside, I'm going to switch focus to them temporarily. Hopefully I can get the kill. One thing that might be nice is a slightly lower reload, but of course as you take damage in this, which you absolutely will be doing, you are going to be of course getting the benefit of Adrenaline Rush. So I would particularly recommend that skill. And also, given that this is a premium battleship, I would particularly recommend using Kuznetsov? Is it Kuznetsov? Yeah, it is, Admiral Kuznetsov. I always want to get Kuznetsov and Kutuzov mixed up, even though one's a ship and one's a captain. Last use of radar, which is going to be a bit of a waste actually, because the planes are going overhead, but that's fine. That's fine. You know, I got the shots off and got some damage in, so I don't think I'll get the kill here, but damage-wise I certainly cannot complain in this game. Absolutely cannot. So all that's left is just a couple of ships on the enemy side, and yeah, my only real worry now is the carrier potentially. I mean, they weren't trying to stack damage. They could have come back after they hit me with the torps and tried to get a fire on me. Instead, they just focused on other things, and that would have been a bit of a problem. I would have probably be much lower health at this point. But yeah, there's not a lot left to do now except just mopping up the rest of these enemies. You can see here the range isn't super great. I can't remember what it is offhand. Is it 19 point something? 20 point something? I can't remember. I'll refresh myself when we get to the port section. But it's good enough. But given how squashy the ship is, though, it kind of feels like at times it might have been nice to perhaps have a spotter, especially in those down tier situations when everyone else does outrange you, or so it can feel like. In those down tier situations, you are a big old ball of squish and you have to play a lot more cautiously, as I've already said, I think. So yeah, it can be a lot less fun depending on the matchmaking, but that can kind of go for all tier 8s. It's just, as a tier 8 battleship, this one is a lot more squashy than most of them. I probably could have sped this bit up actually, but yeah, there's not a lot left now. I will get some final shots at the Saipan. As a little plot twist, it turned out the enemy team had an AFK ship the entire game, top tier radar cruiser, which probably could have made a reasonable amount of difference on that flank. So a bit unfortunate for them, and I think I do report them, and presumably they gathered a bunch of reports from their own team. You never know when it's something like this, whether like somebody had to leave in a hurry, or maybe they've had computer troubles, or who knows. You know, I've had situations myself where somebody phones in the middle of playing, and if it's a call I'm expecting but didn't know when I was gonna take it, then that can be a bit awkward. But you know, you can still kind of play one-handed while the other hand's holding the phone, more or less, although not super well for the most part. But yeah, as for being totally AFK, who knows. So a nice extra top-up of damage, a couple of citadels there as well. That was what, 30k from a single strike, and the cargo finished them off. And now it's just this Saipan left, who isn't even fully hiding behind the island anymore, but that's not, like, they don't have good cover either way here. They could back up a bit and get shot at by the Chapayev, or they can be where they are and get shot at by me and the Massachusetts. And I think I hadn't noticed at this point that the Massachusetts was on 4 kills, because I might have tried to let them get the Kraken. Although, with the Kraken, when it's this kind of last ship situation, you know, you kind of have to earn it, really. Sometimes your teammates will be very nice and go, yeah, okay, we'll let you have that last kill, but yeah, this wasn't one of those times, so at least not for me, because I didn't even notice they had 4 kills. So just waiting for that reload. If I was going to change anything about this ship, honestly, like a little bit longer range or a spotter might be nice, but probably what would be nicer is a very slightly shorter base reload, even just 30 seconds versus 31 seconds. And of course you would have a commensurate improvement with Adrenaline Rush there as well. So 156k damage in the end. I mean, 30k of that was against an AFK cruiser, but that was still a pretty reasonable result, as well as the Confederate. And enough for top of the team. The Chapayev actually came in second, so they obviously did some good work on that flank. And then the Massachusetts in third place. And that Massachusetts really did kind of save my bacon over on the flank I was on, because against North Carolina guns, the armour would just not have stood up at all, and I was forced into that very awkward situation where I could not manoeuvre with my horrendous manoeuvrability, so I was forced into just backing up, and then became a fairly easy hit for the carrier. So overall, this is a really awkward ship to play a lot of the time, but the guns can absolutely be rewarding enough to be worth it. But I really don't think this is going to be a top pick for everyone. I think this one is a bit more niche as far as premium battleships go. So the first thing I'll do is quickly show you the captain skills I've been using. Basically just a more or less standard survivability. The equipment I've got likewise isn't anything too wacky. I've actually put the aiming systems mod on there, which, I mean, the accuracy is already good, but obviously that helps even more. I don't know if there's anything else I would suggest there really. I mean, certainly in that slot you don't need the main battery mod. Your artillery is your main artillery has already a very good turret traverse rate, 30 seconds, which is very responsive for a battleship, and certainly secondaries and the AA gun mod are not worth it. If you could have the 6th slot and actually get the range upgrade, that would be awfully nice, or as I've said, I think like twice now, or spot a plane, because yeah, I couldn't remember what it was exactly, but 19.6 main battery range, so yeah, not fantastic. Concealment is also something I didn't particularly mention, with best possible concealment 13.7, so again, not particularly fantastic. This is not a stealthy ship, which is one of the reasons why it's so challenging. You can't just stealth up and maneuver around with your horrendous maneuverability, sadly. I think it's over 1,000 meters, yeah, 1,060 meters turning radius. It's pretty bad. So, armor. Why is this so squashy? Well, it is a 25mm bow, so it's actually worse than, say, the Tier 7s with their 26mm bows, and it's among the worst in terms of bow armor for Russian battleships overall. There are ones that are worse. I think the October Revolution has, I think I brought that in. Where are we? I was looking briefly and then I cleared the filter. That's got a really paltry, like 19mm, but 125mm on the icebreaker bow. Borodino does have a 50mm icebreaker bow, but the rest is just so big. There's 25mm that yeah, that's not worth a super amount. The bell armor's not too bad, 220, but it's not like it's turtleback or anything. So if you take hits, it's going to hurt. It really is. You've at least got a 50mm deck, which is not too bad, but that snoot is so big that you have that big expanse of 25mm to worry about. So, you know, if you're aiming at one of these things with a cruiser and you're using HE that has that 25 and above millimeters of penetration, it's the extremities really you want to aim for, although of course there's the superstructure to go for as well. So yeah, it's really that 25mm plating that's just such a huge liability, and the below water citadel is not super well armoured. I mean, this 400mm plate here is quite nice, but if plunging fire comes in and hits the top, I mean the sloping there will probably help it a bit, but yeah, it's more being hit from the side that's going to be a problem, and probably getting hit in the rear is not going to be pleasant either. It's only 180mm, although there is a bit of a curve there. But yeah, overall this thing is not particularly survivable in terms of its armour. You really just have to absolutely keep your wits about you. If you're after something Soviet that's got an all-forward gun arrangement and has a lot better armour and also still has very good turret traverse and also 16-inch guns, may I present the Lenin, although that has got the limited use damage control party, so that's not going to be to everyone's taste. But yeah, this is still a relatively fun ship to play as well, even if it doesn't have that amazing accuracy that the Borodino can have sometimes. It just will last under fire a heck of a lot better, and has, you know, a nice 32mm bow instead of 25mm. Although the deck isn't quite as good, but yeah, it's just overall a very, very squashy ship. Now, I did mention the Champagne as well, and so I thought I'd also just throw in a quick look at that. Again, also 25mm plating on the bow stern, but this doesn't even have an icebreaker. So if you've played the Champagne, if you know what to expect from the Champagne, then you'll have a similar appreciation of the survivability of the Borodino, the tankability of the Borodino. Only Champagne is considerably more maneuverable. Yeah, 850. Well, it's only 200 meters better, but it's still a lot better, and I think I'm pretty sure the concealment will be better as well. I'll just stick a spec'd battleship captain in there briefly. 12.9. So overall, if I was gonna like pick between the two of a ship to play, probably the Champagne over the Borodino. Like if you forced me to choose one of the two. But Borodino does have the advantage of you can put Kuznetsov in with that freebie heal once you get to very, very low health. And it, in some ways, is better in terms of its turret arrangement, because Champagne, a lot of the time, only has one turret available. If you want to use both turrets, then you end up having to show awkward amounts of broadside. And with Borodino, at least you can just plant your face towards the enemy. It really is the maneuverability and the vulnerability of taking broadsides that makes it very dangerous to maneuver around when you're spotted. So that's about it for this this look at the Borodino. Hopefully you have found it useful, and if you have, well, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.